Good morning, dear students. Today we will start chapter number 9, that is Flow of Control 1. And in this chapter, we will talk about various control structures in Java. So, before moving further, we must know that how a Java program execute, or what is the execution order of a Java, and let me tell you how a Java program execute. So here we have the order of execution of a program. So the order of execution means in which order the statements of a program are executed. Whenever you run a program in Java, so the execution of your program starts with main method. So this is the method which is called the entry point of the program, from where the execution is started. So inside the main method, all the statements will be executed in linear order. You can call it linear or you can call it sequential. So all the statements of main method, they are executed in a sequential order, one after other. So this is the default execution order of a program. Suppose you have created a class and the name of class is test class. This class is having a method, public method, that is the public static void main. Main method and string arguments. Suppose you have a few statements in the main method. So the first statement is say integer x comma y. So this is the first statement. Second statement is x is 10. Third statement is y is 20. And fourth statement is system dot out dot print line x, and next statement is system dot out dot print line y, and then main method is closed and class is closed. So here, as you can see, in the main method we have these many statements. This is the first statement, this will be the second, this will be the third, this will be the fourth, and this will be the fifth. So 5 statements we are having inside the main method. And when we will start running this program test, so what will be the execution of what will be the execution order of this? The execution order by default will be linear, means this is the entry point for the program main method. Inside the main method, firstly the first statement will be executed, means 2 variables will be declared. Then next statement is x will be initialized with 10, then y will be initialized with 20, and then the value of x will be printed, and then the value of y will be printed, and after that your program will stop. So this is called linear or sequential flow of execution. So when one after the another statements are executed in sequential order, but this order or this sequential order is not always needed in all the programs. In some programs we may need to change this sequential order to get the output. Suppose you want to make a program in Java So you want to make a program, and that program is to find greater between two numbers, and after finding the greater, it must give you two outputs. Either say x is greater, this will it will show, or it must show y is greater. So here the sequential flow of execution will not work. So here you need to change the flow of execution. It means either this statement will be executed or this statement will be executed, but both will not be executed. So here this chapter, flow of control 1, is all about this, that how we can change the execution flow of a program. By default, the execution flow is sequential in a program, or linear, you can call it linear also. So if you want to change it, we can change the execution flow with the help of some commands or statements known as control structures. So these are also called control statements in Java. So with the help of control statements, you can control the execution flow in your program. If you want to change the execution flow, then you can change it with the help of control structures. So these control structures are special mechanism. They are used for conditional and repeated processing of statements. So these control structures are based on a condition. That's why it is called conditional. Some control structures, they are used to repeat a statement again and again. They are called control structures. And these control structures, they can evaluate or they can execute a statement or set of statement that is enclosed in double curly brackets. So one statement is a normal statement that is terminated by a semicolon. So this is statement 1, this is statement 2, this is statement n. So every statement is terminated by a semicolon. And when we enclose a set of statements within curly brackets, it is called a block. So control structures help us to execute a block based on a condition. So we can also repeat this block based on a condition. So according to this, we can divide the control structures into following categories. The first category is sequential control structures. It is the default in which all the statements are executed one by one in a sequential manner. Second, we have the conditional control structures. In conditional control structure, a condition is used, and if the condition is true, then the statements will execute, and if the condition is false, then the statement will not execute, or some other statements will execute if the condition is false. Then we have the iteration, also known as looping control structures, and these control structures are used to repeat a statement or to repeat a block again and again for a certain number of times. So sometimes you need to repeat a statement for several times, then you can use the looping statement. If you need to select which statement will execute and which will not execute, for that you can use the conditional control structures. And these control structure which are the conditional, they are also known as branching statements in Java. Branching. So here we have the branching statements. also known as selection statements, and it is the looping statements. So looping are used to repeat something again and again, but branching statements, they are used to execute a statement or some other statement based on a condition. So here we have the diagram of all these. Firstly, we have this sequential flow of execution. In this, firstly, statement 1 or block 1 will execute, followed by the block 2, then block 3. It is called sequential. This is the conditional. In the conditional, firstly one condition will be there, so that condition will be checked. It is a boolean condition, that's why its result will be either true or false. If this condition is true, then block 1b will be executed. If the condition is false, then this block will be executed. But both the block will not be executed. Only one will be executed, either block 1 or block 2, based on this condition. After that, block 3 will execute. So block 1 and block 2, they are based on a condition. So it is called conditional. Here we have the looping. Looping means a repeating statement. So a statement which is used to repeat something again and again, that is called looping statement. It also has a condition. Until the condition is true, this is the block or this is the body of the loop that will execute while the condition is true. So condition will be true, this will execute till that. Once the condition will become false, then the loop will exit and the control will be transferred to the next statement. So these are the three basic types of statement or the control structures in Java. So sequentially, a sequential control structure, I told you, in this the statements are executed one after the other in a linear or sequence. They are written. So the order in which they are written, according to that order, the statements will be executed. So in the sequential control structure, the execution will start with the main method, and the execution will end with the last statement of the main method. Next we have the conditional control structure. So in all the conditional control structures, they will execute a set of statement based on a condition. So they are also known as selection control structures because they are conditional. They will select which statement will execute and which will not execute based on a condition. They will select that. So that's why they are also known as a selection control structure. Every condition, it will return true or false value, and based on this condition value it will execute the statements. So under the conditional control structure, we have simple if, we have if else statement, we have if else if, then we have the nested if and switch statement. So all these we will discuss in this chapter. We will discuss about if else if, nested if and switch statement. So this is the flow of control 1. So in flow of control 1, we will discuss only conditional control structure or selection control structures. Next we have the looping statements, and the looping statements are used to repeat a statement or set of statement again and again until some boolean condition is true. So under the looping we have for loop, we have while loop, and we have do while loop. So these three statements or these three control structures are under the looping control statements, and this we will discuss in a separate chapter, that is flow of control 2. So for the looping statement we have a separate chapter, flow of control 2, and for this conditional control structure we have this chapter, that is the flow of control 1. So in this chapter we are going to discuss about only selection control structures, and the looping we will discuss in the next chapter. So let's start next discussing about the various conditional control structures. So here we have the first statement, that is called if statement. So if is a statement in Java, and with the help of this statement you can make decision making like this, that which block you want to execute and which block you do not want to execute based on a condition. In that case you can use the if statement. If statement, it is followed by a condition, that is called Boolean expression. If that condition is true, only then the block of condition will be executed. But if the condition will be false, then the block of if statement will not be executed. So here is the syntax. So inside the program you will write if keyword followed by a Boolean condition, and then you can give the statement. If you have to evaluate only one statement, then you can use this syntax. So if condition is there and statement is there, it means this statement will execute only if this condition is true. But if this condition is false, then this statement will not execute. So here we have an example. Suppose here it is written if a may be a variable, if a this is equal to 1, so it will check whether a's value is 1 or not. If a's value is also 1 and we are comparing it with 1, if 1 equals 1, it means true. If a's value will be 1, then this condition will be true. Then it will print hello there. But if a's value is something else, suppose a is 2, then 2 is not equals to 1, then hello there won't be printed. So this is the statement. So you will get this message hello there only if a's value is 1. But if a is having something else value, then this message you will not get. So this is called simple if statement. Now second case we have, if you have a block or if you have more than one statement, if you want to execute more than one statement based on a condition, then you must put these curly brackets after the if statement. So if condition is there, then curly bracket will be there, then statements will be there. If one statement is there, then no need to put the curly braces here. But if you have the more statements, then you need to put the curly brackets here. Example is given here. If here I will be small, I is not capital. So if you will write like this, I is small. If a is greater than b, so this is a condition. If a is greater than b, a will have some value, b will have some value, and it will check whether a's value is greater than b. If it is greater, then it will return true. If a's value is not greater than b, then it will return false. So if it is true, then this block will execute. Then c will get the value of a, and greater number is plus the value of a will be printed. It means this block will execute only if this condition is true. But if this condition becomes false, then these two statements they won't execute. So this is called simple if statement. It has only true part. So simple if has only true part. True part means if the condition is true, then that part will be executed. If the condition is false, then this part will not be executed. Next we have the if else statement. It is also similar to the if statement, but it has two parts. The first part is called true part, and the second part, which is after the else keyword, that is called false part. It means if the condition will be true, then true part will be evaluated, and if the condition is false, then false part will be evaluated. Means the part which is after the else statement, that will be evaluated. So here you have the diagram of this. So firstly the condition will be checked. If condition is true, then block 1 will execute, and if condition is false, then block 2 will execute. So this is the true part and this is the false part. So this is the if part and this is the else part, and after if part or after the else part, this block will execute, that is the block 3. So let's see its syntax. Here we have the syntax of this. So syntax for one statement is there if you have only one statement in the true part or false part. So this is the true part, after the else this is the false part. If this condition is true, then this statement will execute, this will not execute. But if this condition is false, then this will not execute and this will execute. So this is called if else statement. So here we have example, if a is greater than b, then it will print a is greater. But if this is false, then it will print b is greater. So both will not execute, only one will execute, either this or this. So it is called if else statement. If you have more than one statement under true part or under false part, then you need to put curly brackets. So this is the true part, this is the false part. If condition is true, then this part will be executed. If condition is false, then after the else part will be executed. Then we have in the condition, you can also use the characters for comparison. Suppose here if reply is a variable, if reply equals, it is a character value y. So if your this is also a character variable, so you can declare it before using the if like this, character reply, and then you can give some value to the reply like y or n for yes and no. Then we will check if a reply equals y, then this will be printed, answer is yes. Similarly, if you want to combine more than one conditions in the if, you can use the logical operators and or like that. If ch is a character variable, if character variable is greater than or equal to capital A, so if this variable is greater than capital A and if this variable is less than capital Z, it means the ch value is within the range of A to Z. So if both condition will be true, then this will be printed uppercase letter. So this is the AND operator, and this operator will check both the conditions. If this condition and this condition both are true, only then this statement will execute. So with the help of these operators, logical operators, you can combine the conditions. You can join together with the help of logical operator, but you can join multiple conditions. Here it is also written if marks are greater than 60 and if marks are less than 75, then this will be printed, that is first class. So first class it will print only if both the conditions are true, this and this, because logical AND is there. So here is the remember point. Sometimes the students put semicolon immediately after writing the if statement. So this semicolon is not used here. So never put a semicolon immediately after putting a condition. It will be treated as termination or closed. If you will put the semicolon here after the if only, then it means the if statement is closed here. Then this statement will be separate and if condition will be separate, because the if is terminated here only. Then this statement is not a part of this if statement. So here we have a program, and this program is to find a given number is even or odd. So suppose you want to check whether the number is some number is given to you and you want to check whether that number is even or odd. So this program will help us to find that. So here we have the class, public class if demo, then main method is there. Inside main method we have taken a variable n whose value is 55. Then we will apply the if condition. If n, this is the remainder operator, after the division it will return us a remainder. So n will be divided by 2 and the remainder will be returned by this. If that remainder is equals to 0, then this line will execute that n is an even number. But if after dividing the number with 2 the remainder is not coming 0, then this statement will be executed, number is an odd number. For example, here 55 is given, and how the program will work, 55 will be divided by 2. So 2 2 is a 4, remainder 1. 5 will come here, then 7 2 is a 14, remainder is 1. So this is the division, and after the division we got remainder 1. So here n modulus 2 will come 1. 1 equal to 0. Is it true or false? Yes, it is false, because 1 is not equal to 0. In that case, this line will execute. N, that is 55, is an odd number. So this is the output of this program. If you will change the number to some even number, then this statement will work. N is an even number. So here we have this program. In this program we have to find out the smallest number of three numbers. So here is the class main method. We are given three numbers here, a, b, c. A's value is 10, b is 20 and c is 15. We have taken another variable that is small. You can take any variable. So here firstly we will give the a's value to small, because we will assume that a is small. Firstly, this is assumption. We will assume that a is small. A's value is given to small variable. So a's value is 10, so that's why small variable is also having value 10. Then we will compare the value of small variable with b, because small is also having 10. If condition is there, if small is greater than b, small is 10, b is 20. So here the condition is false, so this statement will not execute, because small variable is already small than the variable b. Then this condition will be checked. So small we have checked with the b, now small variable we check with the c also. If small is greater than c, small is 10, and we will check that whether it is greater than c or not. Small is 10, c is 15. So this condition is also false, and this statement will not work. So that's why the smallest variable is small only, that is 10. Here we have a program to check whether a given year is a leap year or not. So leap year program is there, and this program will help us to find whether a year is a leap year or not. So leap year is a year in which February month has 29 days. So that is called a leap year. So next, before moving further, before explaining you this program, let me tell you that years, we have normal years and we have century years. Century years are the years which are ending with 00, like 1900, 2000, 2100, like that, all are century years. And the other years like 1998, 1995, 2005, 2010, they are normal years. Means the normal years are those years which are not century years, and century years are the years which are ending with 0 and 0. So here we have the process of finding the leap year. In case of normal years, you can divide the year with 4, and if it is divisible by 4, then it is a leap year, because every leap year, every normal year that is a leap year, it will come after 4 years. Second, we have the century years. Century year is a year that is ending with 00. Some century years may be leap, whereas some century years they are not leap years. Century years, century leap year comes after 400 years. So suppose 1600 is a leap year, so this is a century year. Then next century year will come after 400 years, so that is 2000 is a leap year. In between 1700, 1800 and 1900, they are not leap year, although they are century years, but they are not leap year. So this is the main thing that you have to understand about the leap year. So now we will see this program. So this is the package, util package dot scanner class for inputting the year from the user. This is the class name is already given, main method is there, scanner class object they have created, and they have shown a message to the user, enter any year. Then they have taken integer variable year, sc.next int method to read a integer from the scanner class. So user will enter a year, he can enter any year, any normal year he can enter any century year. Then what we will do, firstly we have taken this boolean variable whose value is initially false. Then here is the first condition, if year remainder by 400 equals 0, it means if the year is divisible by 400. Why they have taken this 400? Because I already told you that century year, if they are coming after 400 years, they will be leap year. So that's why they are finding the remainder using a 400. If it is divisible by 400, then this variable will be true. Then second case, else if this is not the case, then year is divisible by 100. So this is used to check whether it is a century year or not. So if you are dividing any year by 100 and it is divisible by 100, then it will be a century year. So suppose this condition is false but this condition is true. It means it is not divisible by 400 but it is divisible by 100. Then variable will be false, because it is a century year but it is not a leap year, because it was not divisible by 400. Then we have the next condition, else if year remainder 4. So if the year is divisible by 4, then the variable will be true, else the variable will be false. So here, based on the variable, this var can be true or false. If the var's value is true, then we will show this message that the entered year is a leap year. Otherwise this message will be shown that entity year is not a leap year. So this is the program for finding leap year. Here we have the next type of if, that is called concatenating if else if, and this type of if is also known as a ladder if, because if you have to check only one condition then you have simple if you have two decisions, like if the condition is true then this thing should happen, if the condition is false then that thing will happen, then you have the if else. But what if you have more than two cases to execute? In that case you need to execute this concatenating if else if statement. So this is the working. If the condition is true then block 1 will execute. If the condition is false then there is a one more condition. If the first condition is true then it will execute, but if the first condition is becoming false then second condition is there. If that condition is true then that part will be executed, and further you can take as many cases as you want. If this condition is suppose false you can take another condition here, and then if that condition will be true then that block you can execute, and if that condition is false you can further take any condition. So that's what I am trying to explain. If you have more than one cases you can use this type of if, that is called if else if. So this is the syntax for this. Firstly you will write if condition, then set of statement. After the else you will start another if, then the statement here will go again. After the else you can start another if, after the else you can start another if, and in the end you will write else. If this condition is true this will execute, if this is true this will execute, if none is true then else part will execute. So if none of the condition is true then else part will execute. So this is called concatenating if else if. So here we have example for this. Suppose we have a condition, if a is greater than b it will print a is greater. Suppose this is false then this condition will be checked. If b is greater than a then it will print b is greater. Suppose this is also false then else will execute, both are equal. So this is the concatenating if else if. Next we have the nested if statement. So what is nesting? Nesting means writing another if inside the if statement. So suppose you have a if statement. Here see syntax. So this is the if condition, this is the true part of the if, this is the else, and after the else this is the false part. Within the true part you can see here one more if is there. So this is the inner if and this is the outer if. Firstly this condition will be true. If the outer if is true then inner will be checked, and if inner is true then this block will execute. So this block will execute only if inner and outer both are true. So firstly outer will be checked. If outer is false then inner will not be checked. If outer is false then you know else part will execute, but if outer is true then inner will execute. If inner is true then this part will execute. So this is called nesting if statement. Nesting means writing another if inside if. So this nesting you can do in the true part also, or you can do in the false part also. It means you can write if here also and you can write another if in the else also. So here is the case 2 where the nesting is done in the else part. So this is the if condition, this is the true part, nothing is there, no nesting is done. This is the else part, and inside the else part if is implemented. So this is the nested if. So this can be done in the true part or in the false part. Here we have the ternary or the conditional operator, this one question mark and colon. So this operator is also having the three operands, so that's why it is called ternary or conditional operator. Here is the syntax. Before the question mark it has a condition, and after the question mark and before this colon sign it has a true part, and after the colon sign it has a false part, then semicolon is there. If this condition is true, then this part will execute. If this condition is false, then this part will execute. So the working of the ternary or the conditional operator is just similar to the working of if else statement that we have done earlier. So in the same order it will work as the if else was working. Suppose it is given here 10 equals 15. So this is a condition which I know it is a false. Because it is a false, then this part will execute 10 plus y. If it is true, then this part will execute 5 into x. So this is called ternary operator. This is the nesting of the ternary operator or the conditional operator. Nesting means writing another ternary operator inside the ternary operator. So you can write here in the true part one more ternary operator can be written, or in the false part you can write one or more ternary operators. So that will be called nesting ternary operators. Next we have the switch statement, and this switch statement is very important. If you have more than two cases to execute based on a condition, then you can use the switch statement also. So we will see the working of switch statement. Here we have the syntax. So firstly we will write the switch keyword. Here one expression will be used. Then we will put one curly bracket, then case constant you will use, and then the statement will come. After every case you have to put this break keyword. Then after case 1 you can put the case 2 statement and break, then case 3, case 4, case 5, as many cases you want you can write. But keep in mind that after every case you have to put a break keyword, and in the end you can use this default case and the statements of a default case. But this case is optional, means it is up to you. If you want to use default case in the switch you can use. If you don't want to use this default, you can skip this, and this is the closing of the switch. Here we have a program using switch. So this is the class, this is the main method. Here we have taken a variable whose value is 3. Switch is there, and switch will check the value of x. As we know, the value of x here is 3. So this is the body of the switch. Inside switch we have the case 1 colon sign. So this is the case 1. This is the statements for case 1. You have chosen one break. Then you have the case 2 colon. You have chosen to break. Then you have case 3. You have chosen 3 break. So as many cases you want you can take, and then default is there, invalid, choice, and break. Now we know that the x value is 3, so you have to check this expression is matching with which case. If it is matching with the first case, then this case will execute. If this expression is matching with the second case, then second case will execute. If this expression is matching with the third case, then this case will execute. If this expression is not matching with any of the case, then default will execute. Here x value is 3, that's why it will match with 3, and our output will be you have chosen 3. So that will be the output of this program. You have chosen 3. So this is called switch statement. Switch can be used on several other locations also. Here is another program using switch. So this is the switch demo program, main method. Here we have a character variable opper, and the value of character variable is multiply sign enclosed in single quotes. Here we have another variable float a, b and result. A value is 50, b value is 5, and the result we will calculate. Switch is implemented, it will check the value of opper. So this is the operator, and the operator is a multiply sign. First case we have the character constant, that is the plus sign. So case plus, it means if the operator is matching with the plus sign, then what will happen? This thing. If case is matching with minus character, so it is also a character. If the character is minus, then this thing will happen. If that character is a division sign, this thing will happen. If that character is a multiply sign, this case will execute. If that character is not matching with any, then default will execute. As you know, the opper value is multiply sign, so it will match with this case, and this case will execute. Other cases will not execute, only this will execute. So what will be the result according to this case? The result is a into b. A's value is 50 and b's value is 5. So 50 into 5, 250 will be the result. So that is printed. So here is the result, 250. Suppose you are changing this with this statement. You have written here like this: character opper plus. So now suppose you are writing this statement in place of this statement, plus sign you are using, then it will match with this case, and in that case the result will be 55, because A's value will be 50 and B's value is 5, then the result will be 55. Here we have the break keyword in switch. If you are not writing this break keyword after every case, so you can see after this case break is there, after this case break is there, after this case break is there, after this case break is there. So after every case break keyword is written. Suppose you are not writing this break keyword, then what will happen? A problem will come in the switch statement. If break keyword is not written inside the switch statement, then the cases after the matching case all will execute. So suppose the switch statement is matching with the plus sign and the break keyword is not written anywhere, then what will happen? This case will execute, this will also execute, this will also execute, and this will also execute. So all the cases will execute if break keyword is not written. Suppose the result of switch is matching with the minus sign, then minus onward all will execute if break keyword is not written. Suppose the switch is case is matching with this division sign, then division sign onward all case will execute if this break keyword is not written. So all will execute, and this program or this problem is called fall through in switch statement. Fall through in switch statement. So here it is given fall through condition in switch case. So this condition will arise only if the break keyword is not given after every case. Here we have the difference between if else and switch statement. Here we have the difference between switch versus if else statement. So first we have the if else. In if else you can use boolean condition for true and false, but in switch the result can be in integer or character format. So in the cases you can take either integer constant or you can take a character constant, but not the boolean type value as we use in the if else statement. Second, we have it perform test on integer, floating point and character as well. So every type you can use in the if else. You can use the integer, floating values or characters also you can use, but these tests are not applicable in the switch. In the switch only you can use either integer or character. Other like floating point values or the floating point case you cannot test in the switch. Here we have in if else there is no default block, but in switch case you have a default block. If else it can perform tasks on relational or logical expressions also, but switch it can perform only test for equality. So if the values will be equal, only that case will be executed. Then if else we don't need any break keyword, but in the switch case we need to apply break keyword after every case. So this is the difference between if else and switch statement. Here we have another statement that is called system.exit. So exit is actually a method, and this method is available in java.lang package. So this method can be used to stop a running program. Okay, suppose you want to stop your program, you can use system.exit method, and this method will terminate the JVM. JVM is your Java virtual machine. So it is the environment which is executing your program. If you will use system.exit 0, it means your program will be executed by terminating the JVM. So 0 is the code value or the status. If 0 is given, it means the program is terminated successfully. If any other value is given, like 1 or -1 or any other number is given, then it means the program is stopped or it is completed unsuccessfully. Here we have the menu driven program. So the menu driven programs are based on some choices. So a list of choices will be given to the user, and user will select any one of them. Suppose we have a program where 4 choices are given. First choice is for adding the number, choice 2 is for multiplying the number, choice 3 is for dividing the number, and choice 4 is for any other operation. So user will get that menu, and user will take or user will select any one of them, and according to that the operation will be performed. So that is called a menu driven program. So the menu driven programs can be built with the help of a switch statement. So you can use the switch statement that I already told you to design menu driven programs. So in the menu driven program you can take the different cases. Here we have the limitation of switch. So the first limitation of switch is that it will check only equality with the case constants. If the expression will be equal with the case, only that case will be executed. Second, the case label must be a constant or literal. So the label that you are using with the case, like here case P is there written, it is invalid. Case 10.15 is written, it is also invalid, because only you can use a constant or literal, and that should be a character or integer only. Floating point values are not allowed. So only case value can be integer type or character type. Next we have the break keyword is very important in the switch statement. Without break keyword, the switch will not execute in a proper way. And the last one is no two case label or constant have the same value. So every case should be unique in the switch statement. So these are the points that you must keep in mind while using switch statement. So that's all in this chapter. Thanks for watching this video.